Hello and welcome to yet another episode of Corgi Town USA. I am Candy, host and owner of Corgi Town USA. In my lap is Chuckles, our spokescorg.
I'm Catherine, and at my feet is Digby
Digby the Doof.
Digby the Doof.
Digby the Doof. And Kat is currently fostering a mama and some puppies.
I'm fostering, not only do I have Indy, my permanent foster, and I have a mama and her babies, and we've given them like lovely names, Andromeda, and then just all Greek gods and goddesses. We've got Apollo and Nike and Nyx, and it just goes on and on.
Because they're survivors.
Because they're survivors,
Perfect.
right?
I love it.
And
And your kitty cats.
And my kitty cats.
Yeah. And of course, we have the rest of the Corgi committee here. That would be Booker and Mortimer Barnabas and Tito Bandito, the youngest member, who is in his crate so he doesn't zap around the studio and knock down our equipment mid-broadcast. We got tired of plugging it in again.
That's right. That's happened.
Much to his chagrin, he is in the crate until we're done. Anyhow, if you're new here, hi, welcome. We have episodes every week, all things Corgi and pet parent lifestyle. We have a guest a few episodes ago who is a vet, and we were talking about veterinary medicine and how those costs are kind of affecting us. He was kind enough to join us again.
He was kind enough to join us, and we hope you like this episode. Like we hope you like all of our episodes, and you will, and you do. And so give us a thumbs up, give us a like, and certainly subscribe.
Yes,
it
please
helps
like
us.
And subscribe.
Please like and subscribe. It helps us get the exposure, and the exposure that we need is to get that information out there. It's critical.
Share with your friends.
Share with your friends. Yeah. They don't have to have corgis. They have to have pets.
Yes.
Or know somebody who loves a fur baby. And today's episode is super, 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 super important. So let's get on.
Yeah. If you've been with us last season, we did one on summer safety. We talked about swimming and some of the things and how to keep dogs safe. And we have a vet on today who's going to help us give some more medical advice. Mm-hmm. So it's not just us opining from being pet parents. We have a real expert. Should we bring him on?
Yes, we shall.
Please welcome Dr. Bill Tancredi. Welcome, doctor. Thanks for joining us again.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I'm glad to be back with you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for suffering through with us and our neurodivergent brains here that go off into different tributaries.
We're sorry.
Birds both out there.
But yeah, we want to talk about summer safety. As if you're listening to this, depending upon when you're listening to this or watching this, as we record, we are deep in summer. We broadcast out of Phoenix, Arizona, which is one of the hottest places on the planet.
Yes.
We have to be very careful about mitigating heat and staying safe and staying cool and staying hydrated, even more so for our furry friends. So I wanted to bring Doctor on here and talk about summer safety a little bit more. And I thought maybe we would start with paws and how hot the ground gets and how we can protect paws from the heat.
Yeah.
Well, you guys live in Phoenix. I live in Philadelphia. And it is much cooler and more temperate here than where you guys are. So you guys have to be much more careful about the hot ground. But solids hold temperature better than air does. So the ground is going to be hotter everywhere than the air will be. So you have to be very careful. And your dog's little booties and all that kind of stuff. Very important to be conscious of that. Mm-hmm. And take precautions.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's so many things on the market. And we recently broadcasted from Pixie Sticks Boutique.
Yes.
Out of Gilbert, Arizona. They have they look like Crocs, like human Crocs.
They're very cute.
We thought they were great. They are.
They are so cute.
They stay on really well, even for our little corgi friends, because a lot of times the shoes have to strap up the arms. We don't have arms to work with on corgis.
No.
We have foot shoulder. So those stay on really well, and they have holes because they're Crocs, so they're breathable. Yep. So those are really good options.
And they're cute.
They are cute.
So I am actually going to ask you this question. As a trainer, what are some of the things that I can do to get my whole crew, including the foster? She looked at the boys and she went, "Oh, they don't like that. I don't like it either." Putting the shoes on.
Foster's a loaded question. So we're talking about two different things. We talk about training versus behavior modification. When we're talking about training, most things can be learned pretty quickly with enough consistency and practice. Behavior modification is a whole different ballgame. We have to start out small and we have to make it positive. So if we're wanting to, let's be realistic. We can't completely avoid the hot ground during the summer. The dog still has to go to the vet. It's great to have interaction. So maybe they're going to doggy daycare. Maybe you're going to an indoor dog park like we recently did somewhere. I have corgis. I pick them up under each arm and I carry them in if I need to. But I also have 4, so I can't carry them all in at once. So when we talk about getting them from point A to point B, booties shoes are a great option. If your dog does not like them, wearing them, that is quite common. That is normal. Dogs weren't born to wear shoes.
Nope.
They haven't been evolutionarily wearing shoes like humans have. The best thing, if they're food motivated, even better, because that's going to be how you're going to make this a positive experience. Do not start when they are stressed. If they're already stressed, you're not going to get anywhere. They're already at threshold or approaching threshold. Threshold is how much stress they can tolerate. And your dog is not going to want to listen to you. Think about any time you've been very nervous and someone says, will you please work out this differential equation? I can't do it anyway. I'm very right-brained. But if you have someone who is really good at math problems, but they're very, very nervous, probably not going to be able to perform. So if you think of it in those terms. But I would say get their favorite treats and some of the treats. And as you get the shoes out, show them the shoes, give them a couple treats, check that out, let them sniff it. Okay, good job. Pick it up, put it away.
Okay.
Get closer to them the next time and just consistently do this a couple times a day. Bring them out and get them a little closer. See if they'll let you handle their paws. You should handle their paws from early on within reason. The minute they start to get stressed, pull back, start back. It's baby steps.
Okay. That's good. So
make it a positive experience.
Booties
you get
are good?
food, you get belly rubs, you get good boy, good girl. Anytime those shoes come out, now it's a positive experience.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now we know how to get those booties on, because everybody says put the booties on the dogs, but nobody tells you how to put the booties on the dogs.
Make it a positive experience. Start out slowly. And the minute you see stress, pull back and start back slowly with baby steps.
Cool.
Yes. Okay. So now moving on to cheerful things such as heat stroke. Unfortunately, it is a reality for man and beast. It is summertime. It's actually, I think I was reading, it's one of the hottest summers kind of everywhere on record. So not just in the hotbed where we live in Phoenix. We're kind of, not to say that we're used to it, but we're kind of used to the dangers and aware of the dangers when we have triple digits, beyond triple digits here. Not all regions do. This may be new for you. Things like heat stroke, it can happen kind of quick, where you're not in a danger zone. All of a sudden you're in a danger zone when it gets this hot. So doctor, if you could tell us kind of how to prevent, what are some preventative measures?
Well, the good news about heat stroke, and I'm going to use heat stroke to also cover hyperthermia and heat-related injuries. So I'm just going to use those terms interchangeably, even though I know they're different.
Sure.
But heat stroke specifically refers to anything. A dog's temp is over 105.8 degrees Fahrenheit. And the good news about it is it's totally preventable. This is something that is triggered by an event, like being left in a hot car, being left in the hot sun, tied up out back where there's no shade or there's no water. But the most common reason for it is exertional, where a dog overdoes it. Now, there was a study out of the UK that said, 75% of the heat stroke cases they saw were exertional related. I suspect that's probably different in, London than it is in Phoenix. But still, it's something to consider that not only is it preventable, but it's very preventable if it's exertional.
You're running them too hard.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's our job to know when to stop, because those dogs will go through the wall for you. And they'll like, it's fine, it's great, throw it again. And they will hurt themselves before they quit.
Oh my goodness. Well, and these are heat triggers. We have, vehicle obviously gets hot very quick. Environmental, like when you live in Phoenix and you're masochist like Kat and I, and exertional. So talking about the exertional a little bit more, I'm a trainer, so I talk a lot about the importance of exercise and about keeping your dog stimulated. And there are lots of ways to do that inside where it's cool. If anybody wants to reach out to me, I'm happy to give you more tips. But we just don't do our walkies in the summertime. We just don't. I'm not a morning person. I don't want to get up before the sun arises because my dogs need a walk. We just don't do it. I try to find ways. Chuckles here in my lap is extremely high work drive. You can put a hot steak down on the ground or a ball, and he will ignore the steak and go for the ball. That's how much this boy loves his fetch and his retrieving. So that's pretty common with corgis to have high work drive.
Yep.
And of course, many other breeds that are high work drive the exertional, we are finding out it's not just because your dog enjoys doing it doesn't mean they should be doing it.
Same goes for
So,
people, I imagine. But
yeah.
uh,
Yeah,
but
we
with
have to set the
dogs,
limits.
it's our job to set the limits, and it's our job to, um, you know, pull them back before things go too far. The rule in my household with the dog is I have a very, uh, eager, enthusiastic Frenchie who is very concerned with where the frisbee is. And the
So
rule in our house is 5 throws, and then she gets a break. And even, it's still in the 80s here. It might be in the 90s. Sometimes we'll break the triple digits. It's it's a problem that everybody faces. Um, so we've got to be the ones with the brains and we've got to be the grown-ups about it and say, all right, that's enough. Come on back in. And I have a very indignant Frenchie a couple times a day, but she's still with us, so that's what
Yeah.
matters.
much to her chagrin, you make her
Yes.
stop. Yes.
And I just want to reiterate, we were talking off camera earlier, about the dogs that want to keep going, and the belief that a dog will know when it's too much.
They don't know their limits.
Can you
Nope.
talk a little bit about that, Doctor?
They don't. They are
Mhm.
dogs. They are wonderful animals. They are not good at self-regulation. Um, that's on us. That's our responsibility of care for them. And that's their they do not self-regulate that well. I mean,
Okay.
eating, exercise, anything like they will. It's great how enthusiastic and how eager they are to do fun things, and but it's our job to be the responsible ones.
We had Dr. Sugarman from Vetsplanation on said that exact same thing.
Yeah.
So if you didn't catch that episode, we've
Yeah.
now had 2 veterinary professionals say that.
Right.
Yeah.
I guess they do things in overabundance. So they love you in overabundance.
Life is a party.
Life is a party. They will lick you in overabundance, and they will give you everything that they have, and that includes potentially hurting themselves. So be the good parent and say, nope, you got 5 throws with the frisbee. Time to come in.
Yeah.
You ran around for whatever. Time to come in.
And as we're understanding that different breeds tend to be more prone to overheating.
It's true. Your little short round corgis are definitely more prone to it. My brachycephalic little Frenchie is more prone to it. In the environmental cases, dark colored, black, brown dogs are more prone to it. Very old or very young dogs are more prone to it. Obese dogs are more prone to it. And dogs with, other comorbidities, heart disease, kidney disease, other things are more prone to this kind of thing, are more prone to the heat stroke and the heat related injuries.
Varying tolerance levels.
It's true.
Yeah.
And an extension of that would be varying acclimation levels.
Okay.
It's very hot where you guys are. We get all 4 seasons here. So one of the times of year when we'll see the most heat related injuries is when we get that first nice day of the year and it's been 30 for months and now it's 75 degrees outside and everybody goes to the dog park and dogs overdo it. And even though if they've been, you can acclimate just like a human athlete could acclimate to the weather or the heat. But that first hot day, that first nice day, be extra careful.
Yeah. I was saying, I see it myself as a human. That's what I am. But I see it myself 90 degrees. Okay. I'm okay. 100 degrees. It takes me 2 to 3 days to acclimate. 110, it takes me 2 to 3 days to acclimate. And anything over like 112, it takes me 2 to 3 days to acclimate where
and
I am.
Some people never acclimate to that.
Well,
That is hot.
Right.
That is hot. But,
Yeah.
This is where I've chosen to live. It just takes me a few days of not feeling well, not being able to just, kind of get between my office desk and, the couch or whatever.
You get real cranky.
I get real cranky. Well, I know, but seriously, if I'm doing that as a human, guess what? It's happening to your dog. It's happening to your cat, even if it's an indoor cat.
Yeah. Keeping them cool is really important. And I think, can we talk about the signs? I mean, we know when your dog pants, but just because your dog's panting doesn't mean you're in a danger zone. So can we talk a little bit about signs to watch out for where like we really need to pay close attention and get them cool
Sure.
get them cooled quickly?
I I would say one of the predisposing factors is high ambient temperatures, but that's all day, every day where you guys are.
Yeah.
One of the other things that'll happen is they'll be outside and it'll be hot outside and they'll be lounging around and then they get going. So then they were kind of at a high temperature and then they cranked it with the exertion. You'll see excessive panting. And I mean excessive. Like you'll know, like, oh, this isn't right. Like if you're questioning it, you should come see somebody like me.
Right.
You might see collapse. If you see collapse, I would go right to the vet's office.
Just that very word makes me shudder.
Yes.
Right. I would, they say respiratory abnormalities is the textbook term. That's different than panting, but you'll see it as like panting or gasping for air, and you'll be like, oh, that's not right. This is worse than it should be.
Right.
And that's an emergency, I think, in any temperature.
Sure. That breathing thing, that's awful important. You want to keep a good eye on that.
Oxygen's kind of important.
That's crucial.
Yeah.
And I think those are the big ones.
Okay.
But if good common sense or uncommon sense. But if your radar's up about a thing, especially if you're in Arizona or you're in a place where heat stroke is like a real risk because it's 108 degrees, definitely err on the side of go to the doctor.
Okay.
Everybody knows not to leave your dog in a hot car. Everybody knows not to leave your dog somewhere where there's no shade or water. It's on us to moderate exercise. But if, we've overdone it, then, it's time to go to the doctor because the problems that can result, cerebral edema, seizures, hypoglycemia,
deep breaths, Candy, deep breaths.
I'm sorry. Coagulopathies. I won't keep going, but you get the idea. Like, and the thing to expect when you get to the vet would be for them to be a little twitchy. Why do we want to run blood work? Why do we want to start on fluids? Why do we run electrolytes and do all this testing? It's like, because that cliff that we've gotten very close to the edge, it's a long way down.
Mm-hmm.
So better to know these things sooner rather than later.
Right.
And so we can treat them. And
this can kill quickly, from what I understand.
Oh, yeah.
You go from danger to too late very quickly.
Yeah. So that's why vets here, but especially in Arizona, I imagine will be, they'll almost seem to overreact. Like, what do you need all these tests for? It's like, they do. Like all this stuff that can get us into a really bad way. Like you can get multi-organ failure. You can get systemic inflammatory response. You can get DIC. Like this can go real sideways real quick.
What is DIC?
It's a disseminated intravascular coagulopathy. So your platelets get a little
deep breaths.
Too jumpy and start working when they shouldn't. And then you start throwing clots and you're out of platelets elsewhere. And it's just a really bad situation. Yep.
Excessive stimulation.
Excessive stimulation. So on my way to the vet, I have determined that, Digby's breathing a little bit harder than he normally does. He's just, something's wrong. Mama says something's wrong. Tell me what I'm doing. Tell me the steps to take.
Obviously, go to the vet if you think this is a problem. Number one.
That's what I would say, because some people are like, oh, well, I've cooled him down. It's like, yeah, but there can still be other stuff going on.
Okay.
So you'd want to check, right? Like he could be fine, or like just make sure, and then Candy can sleep at night and nobody like, oh, we've got enough platelets, our electrolytes are fine, and there's no fluid on the brain, so we're good.
Does it help
But
to check a temperature with a rectal thermometer? Is that something that if somebody's comfortable doing that, is that something that you would recommend, or just get them just go to the vet?
yeah, I don't think the dog will enjoy it, but yeah, go
Yeah.
ahead.
Yeah,
Go
I was
for it.
going to say, you
Make
said
sure you
rectal
use lube,
thermometer. Yeah, you
and make
said
sure that thermometer in the house is very well labeled,
yes.
so that nobody uses it for anything else. But yeah, I mean, you can check it, and if you're at 105, like, get him in the car.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I would aggressively cool him on the way there.
Okay.
Ice packs, cool wet towels. One of the things we'll do is alcohol on the paws or
Oh,
the
okay.
ears, because it evaporates quickly, so it pulls the heat away nice and fast. And then your vet, will know enough to not overcool them, and they will probably stop the cooling once we've gotten down to 103 or so.
Okay.
And but to get the rest of the way down and stabilize might take a little while.
Okay.
So give them some latitude to do that. I would also, we talked about this off camera beforehand, tossing them in the pool. You mentioned like a meme post or a social media post about how it would constrict the blood vessels and it would do this. And it's like, I have a different reason for not recommending it. And that would be because it would increase exertion.
Okay.
If
Body's
they're
having to work
paddling
harder
real
for someone.
hard, we're not really going to cool down all as fast as we want to. We're not going to get that core temperatures down as quickly as we could.
Okay.
If you had a little kiddie pool where they were sitting, that would probably be fine. I wouldn't dunk them in ice water or throw them in a cooler or something, right? Like it's probably too cold.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But aggressive cooling with ice packs or wet towel or cool wet towels or that kind of thing on your way to the vet is a good
Okay.
idea.
Good.
Great. Thank you.
That
And
is a lot of really good information.
yeah. So
And like
so
I said, it's good to overreact here because
Oh
this
yeah.
can get out of hand quickly.
Okay.
And I'd much rather treat a dog with fluids and a pat on the head and say, yep, he's fine, don't do that again, than see him when he's in DIC and we're crossing our fingers that we're going to make it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. And I like that you said about the, it's the rapid temperature changes, I think, and that's what I wanted to talk about. If some of you out there have seen, there's some information floating around the internet about, oh, here's what to do if your dog gets too hot. And ultimately the bottom line is get them to a vet as quickly as possible. You can't play with this. It's
No.
quick, dangerous we have a potential fatality on our hands. So
Right.
get them to the vet as quickly as possible, but to transport, you can cool them off. And I realize that the importance of this is we have to consider that not everybody is close to an emergency clinic.
Correct.
Some people live maybe in rural areas or where it's going to be a long drive. So don't toss them in the pool. Don't get the cool towels. Get that cranked AC in the car. Get an environment that is conducive to cooling someone off, not immediately, but as quickly as possible as you transport to get care.
And if you can have
I
two
would
people
dump them in an ice bath.
Yeah, don't dump them in. Yeah.
And I would much rather get to the vet and say, you know what, he's actually fine, go home, and have wasted a couple hours than not, and have a tragic outcome.
Yeah.
Exactly. And maybe even have that doggy thermometer. By the way, when you said that, Digby went, oh.
He says, oh no, I have flashbacks.
Yeah. So, maybe have that in the car on the way, because you said 105 to 103. That doesn't
Doesn't sound like very much.
Doesn't sound like very much, but it's crucial. And then after that, you want to slow it down. So that could be something if you can.
Mm-hmm.
Don't go looking for the thermometer and take an extra 35 minutes to do that. Just if you can do those things.
Plus, I think it'd probably help your vet if you've taken temperature, then we have a baseline of what it was en route.
More information helps me a lot.
Yeah. And corgis, I mean, again, we talk, what is the word again, doctor? The flat nose?
The brachycephalics, the short nose.
Yes.
Nose.
Yeah. I can never say that word. It's part of training too, is sometimes the way we train them is a little different because different reasons. But
brachycephalus.
yes, but also corgis do tend to overheat pretty quickly. I mean, again, we talk about evolutionary standpoints and where they start. They're Welsh.
Yeah, it's cold. It's
yeah,
it's the middle of our beautiful summer. No, it's cold.
Yeah. They tend to fare. I don't want to say better is a relative term. I don't want to say they do better in cold temperatures because hypothermia is also a risk, but they tend to be less heat tolerant than some of the other breeds.
Yes.
They heat up very quickly. They have thick undercoats. If you have 1, 2, 3, 4, like I do, your whole life is vacuuming and brushing and lint rolling.
Yes.
So you understand how thick those coats are, and they heat up really quickly. When we have signs of panting, we pull in, we calm down, we get cool, and that's the first thing we do. I think we've covered most of our summer safety.
I do have a question.
Yeah.
Sure.
It's so, turn on the tap, the water goes into their bowls, and you turn on the tap at noon, between noon and 5, and it comes
Our
out
water
hot.
is warm here.
Yeah, like I don't have to put hot water on.
Yeah, we take cold showers in the summer, and our cold showers are warm.
Or warm. So, is there any danger to if the water's too warm? Are we like the baby bottle on the wrist where okay, this is too warm, we've got to cool the water? Can you talk a little bit to how warm the water is?
I would err towards all things in moderation.
Okay.
Like if you wouldn't, if you wouldn't drink it, I wouldn't give it to them. You don't want it too cold. You don't want it very warm.
Right.
I don't know that they're like, and we kind of talked about this off camera as well, but there's not a hard and fast rule. Like a lot, dogs are very, very different. The Corgi doesn't look or move a lot like a Great Dane, doesn't look or move a lot like a Chihuahua, doesn't look or move a lot like the little Frenchie I've got. Like there's a tremendous variety of dogs who are acclimated or not acclimated to all sorts of different environments and things. And we have studies and we have science, but there's a lot of variety. So your good judgment is at the first, like at the at-home first aid care level,
right?
The most important thing.
So apply balance and common sense.
Yes,
as best you can. Yeah.
Yeah, and then one last thing: if we're in a place where we are, obviously we, like I said, in this house, we pretty much suspend most physical activity in the summertime because it's not worth the risk. But if you're in a place like Dr. Tancredi, where it's nice, we've talked about exertional exposure and how they can heat up quickly. But one thing to consider as well, you might exercise more outside in a colder climate. Here in Phoenix, we are separate of everybody else. We do our cookouts and our outdoor parties and our 5K runs. Yeah. In the winter time. And then in the summertime, we're holing up in our homes. And so we're pretty much opposite to everyone else. So if you live in a colder climate, maybe you do get out more with your dog and you exercise. Let's talk about meal times. I've been told, and I think this errs on the side of where there's probably not an exact science to it, but about balance for how quickly to exercise before or after a meal. I've been told at least 2 hours is a good baseline. Do you feel like that's reasonable?
I think that's reasonable. I don't know that there's a true right answer, and I mean there might be for each and every dog in the world.
Sure.
If you look up the studies on Google Scholar, it's 4 to 6 hours for a dog's stomach to empty. Do you want them exercising on an empty stomach? I don't know. But the range is from an hour and a half to 10 hours. And you could have siblings who are different. You could have 4 corgis and they could all behave, have a slightly different rate of stomach emptying, and some of them could do really well on, running on a full stomach, and some of them could do really poorly. Exercise on the full stomach does increase the risk of stuff like a GDV, like a twisted stomach, which would be a medical emergency. But it
low on the prognostic scale, right? Like,
Yeah, it can be
not very
bad.
good. Yeah, yeah. That's a
Um,
scary one. That's a scary one.
yep. But it's 1.5 to 10 hours is a long time.
Yeah.
Like
Right.
that's a big difference.
Yeah.
And most of them land in that 4 to 6 hours, but 2 as a rule of thumb, sure.
Okay. Good. At least we have something and not
A
nothing.
baseline.
A baseline.
Yeah.
You know,
And
because
not hard and fast, but yeah, okay. 2's good.
yeah, and as I said earlier, I didn't know at all. So, I would be like, okay, you ate, now let's go run around. And that's really bad. So now I know. And
I
2
mean,
hours. Yeah.
if you've been feeding your dog a cup of food and then he goes and runs around for 2 hours every day for the last 5 years, you're probably fine, right?
Yeah. Right.
Or maybe not. He might actually do better waiting longer. Um, like I said, I think it's common sense over strict rules in this case.
Good.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that. We are going to let you get back to your life, doctor.
Yes.
Thank you.
Not hole up your whole evening.
It's been lovely being here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah,
Thank you for being with us and all the wonderful information.
Yes,
My
we
pleasure.
cherish you guys and what you do, and thank you so much, and thank you for advocating for your patients. And please tell our audience, if they didn't catch you last time you're on, about your media work and how to find it, and then of course I'll drop those links down.
I appreciate that. I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. You can add me there. I will try to get back to you. And then I write a Substack. It's drtank.substack.com about veterinary medicine and in particular the use of artificial intelligence in vet med and all the cool things we can do with it. I will do my best to get back to you. With a 4-month-old at home, I'm a little slower at the response time than I used to be, but I will do my very level best.
Thank
Well,
you.
thank you so much.
And I do want to throw this in. If you do connect to Dr. Tancredi, we have other resources if you have specific veterinary questions, because we don't want your inbox to get flooded. It's like, oh, great, a vet I can talk to. There are some resources if you use Chewy and you use their service, the auto ship service, you actually have free access to chat with a vet. They're careful not to diagnose or anything, but they are very good if, is this an emergency?
Yep.
I've used them quite a few times, and hey, how worried should I get to this? Is this an ER visit, or is this something where I can make an appointment in the morning when my vet opens? So that's a resource for a quick question. There's also Pet Vet Corner on Facebook. Only vets are allowed to comment, but you can start posts with hello vets with your question. You're at the mercy of some very busy professionals, so you may not always get answered there. But Chewy is great. And if you have insurance, some of the insurances will actually have an app of chat with a vet. So there's some other resources for you. We want to be respectful of Dr. Tancredi's time. And yes, please connect with him and listen to his show. But please use the other resources if you have a specific veterinary medicine question so that we can give him some balance to his life.
Wow.
4-month-old,
Late,
whatever.
but thank you for trying.
Well, thank you so much,
Thank
Doctor.
you.
We appreciate you, and hopefully we'll have you on again too.
I hope so. Thank you.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Thank you.
You too.
Bye.
Bye. So much information.
Well, I'm going to have to just give you a lot of Valium.
I know. I have to breathe. I have to breathe.
You have to breathe. And these are, remember, these are the worst case scenarios.
Yeah.
And it's more, I think, for people to be aware that this can happen.
It happens quick.
It happens quick.
Yeah.
And like me, I'll take me for example. I didn't even know. So now I'm going to avoid worst case scenario because I know. So the words and the big terms that Dr. Tancredi used, I'm not quite as worried about, simply because I now know better. When we know better, we do better. And you know way, way better. So you do way, way better.
Sure.
And that's what we're saying to you, dear listener, dear viewer.
We hope it was helpful.
Know better, do better. And we just want to help you know better.
Yeah. And it's just be careful. It's a hot summer out there.
Yep.
Try to keep yourself cool and hydrated, and please keep your pets cool and hydrated. And when you see some panting, bring them in, get them cool. Try your best not to let it get too far. So
exactly.
But stay safe out there, and we hope you have some summer fun in the safety given these tips. We'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.